Good evening. Good evening. My name is Kwabena. Good evening. I want to share with you briefly what I call process or principle thinking. Process or principle thinking. Life is governed by processes, and life is governed by principles. The the more we know the principles, the better for us to understand the processes that we have to go through to get results. So, if it's an individual life, whether it's a business that you are building, whether it's a marriage that you're building, whether it's a project that you're working on, whether it's finances, whether it's a period that you have to endure to see results, whatever it is with life, there are principles and there are processes. If we get to know the principles that govern that particular aspect of our lives, we get results. Now, if we don't know them, we struggle. We go through a lot of pain, a lot of errors, a lot of mistakes because we did not know the principles that govern that particular one. So, uh, for instance, if you want to start a business, there are processes and there are principles that guide how a business is started, how an idea is generated, how that idea is developed, and how that idea is gets to a stage where that idea starts to get revenue. There are principles, there are things that are involved in building a business. Now, when we start and we don't know, many of those principles, as usual in that kind of environment, there are a lot of things that we do that we just happen to believe that they are out of our control. And so usually when you meet people and you're asking about what they're doing and whether they are winning or whether they are struggling or whether they are failing, most people, our conviction is that it's in the hands of God. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Maybe things will change because we were not trained to be to think in terms of principles and in terms of processes. And so a lot of us hope that things will increase, things will get better, things will change. Maybe anyhow, God will help us to succeed. But the letter that I've seen in this life is that majority of the things that have to do with life, with progress, with success, with endurance are they only happen because we understand the principles, the quality of the principles that we understand, then the results that we will get, the processes that we understand, then the results that we will get. It's going to be very difficult for most of our people to be told that a lot of the things that we are waiting for somebody else to give us power to get results are really within our reach, and that we are not getting the results because we started learning the processes late, or we have not even convinced ourselves or understood that results come as as product of the principles that we understand and the processes that we understand and how diligent we are or we were in trying to follow a lot of these things. So most people in a kind of the word structural, systemic, procedural, or principle thinking, they are not part of the way we are. They are not part of our outlook of life. And as a matter of fact, if most people are religious. And so when you start to think about, or when you start to talk about thinking, when you start to talk about processes, when you start to talk about principles, they get offended. They think that it means that you are taking God out. And I think that's why a lot of us go into detour and a lot of us delay in life in terms of getting to achieve something in our lives. Or a lot of us end up feeling late, feeling disappointed, and then out of haste, out of confusion, we start to do a lot of things just to get by. So if you don't study the principles, if you don't get to understand the processes, you would most often end up in a position where you have to do a lot of things unethically just to get money to live and just to put a face of success, because we cut corners or we jump the principles that were needed to get the results, or the processes that we have to endure to get the results. And so in this life, if you want to live healthy, if you want to live long, if you want to get financial success, if you want to build a successful business, a successful marriage, if you want to even build a successful country or company, we have to understand that there are principles in building them. There are procedures that are followed. There are processes that we have to understand on this earth. And many of those things are within our reach. And that is one of the most difficult things to tell an African, especially those who are religious. Today I traveled somewhere and I was counting the number of posters of young men who have the title of prophets, and I saw the kind of things: breakthrough, uh, 30-day miracle, all kind of those things, and they all go to prove the fact that they think that, all of us, we want to become successful. And so their way of thinking that you have to become successful is that there is some supernatural something, some way that you have to come to them for them to give you, for you to become successful. Now, that is part of the culture at the moment. I don't know who is going to improve it, but so long as a lot of our people think this way, a lot of people will struggle in life. A lot of people will not have results that are out, or the results that are coming out of principles, out of character, out of processes. Because for us, majority of our people, they think that God is somewhere working for you to get money, or working for you not to get accident, or working for you to live long, or working for you for your country to develop. Some of us will even think that God is responsible for us clearing the waste that is in our country. I think that is the conditioning that we are, at least now, that is the kind of thinking that a lot of people have. And I think those will be those who work against many people not achieving their life dreams, many people delaying with their lives, hanging their finances on some miracle, on some magic, on some lotto, on some supernatural power somewhere, other than studying the principles of how I'm going to take care of my finances, how I'm going to prosper, or even in most people, weekends we go to a lot of funerals, and one of the things that you see is that people, a lot of young people die out of nothing. You don't know what it is, then they hear that they die, and instead of us trying to study, why is it that most of our young people who are not 80, 90, just 35, 45, and then they tell us that, oh, in life you can just go anytime, anyhow. You don't know, maybe some demon somewhere. Can't we also study? Can't we also sit down and see what are the principles that we have violated, that are causing all this kind of pain, this kind of unexpected losses, unexpected pains that our people are going through? Your friend is there. Do you know his lifestyle? Do you know his eating habit? We don't know. We don't study them. Then the next day he has organ failure, and then the next moment he's gone. Or like the accidents that we experience on the roads a lot. Are we sure that we are following the principles, the skill of the driver, the road, the condition of the vehicle? Are we following all the safety measures, and are the roads even constructed well? Now, most of these principles that will, usually countries that have better rate of accident, or in areas that people don't get vehicular accidents that kill a lot of people, what are the principles that they follow? There are things that the people follow. They don't drink driving. When they are exhausted, they follow it. They follow the road signs, and people drive with some kind of sanity in their mind. Now, ours, the young boy, which is 18, 26, is driving the trotro, not following any law, any rule, doesn't care. The policeman will stop him. You will see that this is a young man. The car is in a bad shape, is carrying a lot of people, 16, 17, 18. We don't care. We don't follow those principles. And then next moment, boom, there's an accident. And then you will hear somebody telling us that he saw some demon somewhere, is a prophet. Success in this life is as a result of the principles that we understand and the principles that we follow. Now, instead of us trying to find out these principles, now people have moved us into a realm that a lot of things are out of our control. So you see a young man who is trying to build anything. He will not study the processes. He will not study the principles. He will just do things anyhow. And then when he meets a lot of challenges, a lot of pain, and he starts to give up, then he's calling some malam, some prophet somewhere to tell him that it was this, because that's why he got into all those problems. I think the more that people continue to believe these things, the future, the bleak that it is for us, because there are principles. And if you violate the principles, then you should go back and learn them, other than convincing yourself that it is some power somewhere that was principle. And that's the kind of belief system that seemingly is coming up among a lot of our people. And so life is of principles. Life is of principles. Life is of life is of principles. Successful life is of principles. Successful life is of